Hello, everyone. Welcome to the workshop, Creativity of Disruption. I'm Juliana, and this is
And I'm
Carl,
Carl.
and we come from Otis School of Art and Design. We're both instructors at School of Art and Design in their program for teens and adults
Extension.
at the extension.
Yes.
Welcome. We're going to show you some slides of some photographs in the artwork, and Carl is going to do a hands-on demonstration. He teaches street art during the summer, and he
Printmaking urban arts.
and urban arts,
Yes.
and he is going to demonstrate to you just a few simple techniques. What materials you have around, you can observe and see if you can do the activity or just watch. We will comment on everything that he's doing.
Okay. So we might start with a simple drawing of shapes and to create stencils. So as you can see, my desk is already full of stuff. And basically, I will start drawing with, well, before we start drawing, I wanted to show the work first. Go ahead. And
All right.
some slides, um, um,
Some slides for your inspiration.
exactly, that deal with this technique as well.
And first of all, does anybody have any questions about Otis School of Art and Design or anything about their summer program for teens or anything like that? Their
Yes.
pre-college program. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and we can answer some of them. Now, what I'd like to show you are the slides from today, some for our inspiration. We're going to see the first slide, and this is a very famous.
Yes, continue.
It's a very famous image that came out of Summer of Protest. And the reason why we're showing you that image is because during 2020, when Carl was teaching the class online, there was a lot of interest in our program to create artwork based on some of the inspiring photographs. We thought today we'll show you some of the photographs that will that kind of could inspire us. We're just okay. So should we? I can show it off of this one if you want, or we can.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Yeah.
Was it not working on that one?
No, this is my slideshow.
Oh, yeah, no.
All right. So we're gonna 1 second. Carl is getting ready.
Okay.
I'm going to.
So in the meantime, I can, as we are dealing with some technical issues, I can show you like a simple shape of a stencil. I'm going to put it
And
next
what
to
is
the back.
stencil, Carl? Tell
Okay, a
us.
stencil is a cutout of a drawing on a piece of paper, cardboard, or some nice piece of resistant plastic that I have here with me.
And do you want to show how you use the stencil in your artwork, Carl?
Yes, the
Here we go.
stencils are used to create patterns and repetitions. For example,
I think I should show it because
there is this piece. I'm going to try to put it in front of the camera. And this is something we've been working on using different cutouts, like a collage, with the stenciling. And with the stencils, basically, I will draw like a simple shape.
Well, we have the slides.
We have the slides. Okay, can you go
Yeah.
with the slides right now?
Okay, we have the slides. All right, friends. We titled our slide presentation Creativity of Disruption. Subtext, good trouble. together you can redeem the soul of our nation. And this was a quote
from John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis from South Carolina, who marched with Dr. King during the civil rights period.
All right. And so the next slide is
this one.
a very famous image from 2020 of a young woman facing this line of the police, and it's a very famous image, obviously, because why do you think it's so famous? Would anybody like to chat? Put it in the chat. Why do you think this image is so famous? What's so special about this particular image? What do you think? Anybody could just come in, pop in, go for it. Tell me one thing. Why do you think this is such a great image? Anyone?
Are we getting
All right.
answers? No.
So I'm going to go on.
You can continue with the
Oh,
next
here
one.
it is. Okay, there we go. We're going on. So this is a very interesting piece. Carl, would you like to talk about it?
Yes, this piece is from Haiti. Basically, this is the unknown maroon. This sculpture was erected in Haiti during the 60s, but basically is a unknown maroon that is kneeling with a conch in his mouth, blowing it for gathering of the people. Basically, the conch in itself.
And what is a conch?
The conch is a
Shell.
Is a seashell that could be blown and make this interesting noise like a shofar. And basically, it's kind of a sound of gathering, and it's like a trumpet. So basically, the unknown maroon, this very beautiful sculpture, also is about kneeling and protesting, and also a sign of freedom that the unknown maroon is known for with this sculpture.
Very good. Next slide. And this is another very famous slide. Carl, do you want to talk about it?
Well, as we can see, is Dr. King and a group of civil rights leaders in 1965 in Selma, Alabama, as they were getting to get arrested, and they kneel as a sign of protest that day. And it was taken by a photographer as part of a voter registration campaign in the South.
And so this is a much more recent event, and this is maybe some of you will recognize.
Basically, you have the quarterback of San Francisco, number 7, Colin Kaepernick, who started this movement of kneeling, not put to protest the flag, but respecting the flag as well, because kneeling is a sign of respecting a dead soldier during the war. It's a sign of solidarity, actually, but also a sign of humility and making yourself not lower than somebody standing, but it's a sign of like saying something which is bigger than just word. So the kneeling protest took fire on the NFL, and he got fired for that, never got hired again.
And so this image is actually and very inspiring. So let's see what's next. And maybe this is something you have seen. This is the halftime show, and you have a singer, Eminem.
So this is when, during the half time of the Super Bowl this year, and Eminem decided to kneel, and Dr. Dre, playing the piano, did not tell him not to do it, didn't object to that. So it was like a gesture of solidarity with Black Americans against police brutality and the civil rights as well.
Nice. This is a very amazing kind of instance. So this is the 1973
72 Olympic in Munich, where
Munich, Germany.
When two athletes protested as well by raising the fist.
Well, they also were gold medalists.
there are gold medalists and silver medalists and protesting for Black Power, basically raising the fist with the
Solidarity.
glove in solidarity with
Uh-huh.
the rest of the nation. And on the right is an earlier print by Jacob Lawrence as well, commemorating the Olympic. And Jacob Lawrence was making reference also to the 1934 Olympic in Munich, where Jesse Owens was a champion, and the Kaiser did not want to shake his hand, and that was also a sign of protest as well.
And
with these prints.
This is a good example where the artists create in solidarity together with whatever the world events,
Mhm.
right? This is exactly what happens when you have world events. Artists engage by creating artwork, by giving us a very hopeful view of something that could otherwise is very difficult, right?
Exactly.
And so,
But that falls into the creativity to protest
yeah.
what this form is
Yeah.
trying to emulate here.
Okay, so this is a slide of the. This is the slide of the.
This is the slide of that was an installation that was done in High Desert. I think it was 2020
Maybe
in
yeah.
High Desert. So this is Indian Land by this artist that we have the text and we're not seeing the text. And that was more or less to protest emulating the Hollywood sign that was also a sign in real estate that used to not sell land to minorities, basically. Land were only for white people. So the native artist did this piece in High Desert, which is what is High Desert?
Joshua Tree?
Around Joshua Tree and that part of California. And he created this piece basically saying this is Indian land, this is borrowed land, so this place belongs to us as
So
well.
another example, wouldn't you say, where the artists are, where the artists are engaging and giving us a message based on, their reaction to whatever.
Current event and
Yeah.
what is going on in the country right now, or all over the world regarding indigenous rights and First People's rights in the land.
Okay. And here's another slide, and this is protesting
At
and
the
water rights, right? At the
the Dakota access pipeline, there were like thousands of people protesting, opening this pipeline from Canada, passing through different tribal land and destroying the water. So this protest really was very serious, where actually the government shut down the pipeline at the end.
and so what we're seeing is this amazing sort of graphic print, really.
It's a beautiful print, yes. And this is something that we might, we want to talk about the idea of the self-help graphic, but this is like a do-it-yourself technique that we're going to talk about later on as we see in slides. And this is a beautiful piece as well. That was also in High Desert.
Here's another kind of an example of a sculpture that was at, in High Desert, an image and text, and that's a woodcut that Carl and I did for the class when it was online. We did that woodcut as a demonstration of the process.
And on the right is this beautiful phrase that we didn't read the phrase.
Would you like to? Okay, go ahead.
Nevertheless, continue.
So this is these are two images. One is from we couldn't find the artist who created the Kopernik with the fist afro, and then the other one is from the class, from the urban art printmaking, right?
Yes.
And printmaking class during the summer, and we're going to see some student work right now, which and if you have any questions how it was done, Carl can tell us, right?
Yes. And the student work are dealing with the same aspect of protest, but also making a statement regarding the environment, regarding some personal politics, health, and culture. So that class that that Otis has, like, which is the printmaking and urban art, where the theme is open, but it deals with health, basically. Health, the environment, beauty, poetry, everything is open in this class. So that's
Okay.
why you will see diverse slides having different
So let me
thought process.
Let me just tell people that this is a woodcut on the right.
Yes.
It's a woodcut. So these are just some of the processes. This is a collage and woodcut.
And collage and woodcut. You can see the woodcut that we use also with the bug. The
Yeah,
bug,
so
basically, that's the print.
So there's like a layered multimedia
Exactly.
collage.
Like a process.
Here's two students working on their projects, and I actually have seen these during the final show, and it was pretty amazing and impressive.
And the piece on the left is more or less a collage technique. She was using like a combining different material here, like sewing, paper, and printmaking as well. So perhaps a few slides down, you will see the result of what she was doing.
Okay.
And that's the print, which is like a 3D model, basically. As you can see, the text, there is a text coming out of the mouth of the photograph here, but it's kind of a three-dimensional piece, paper on paper, and a beautiful print of this character spilling out some words. And
here's another version with the words
with,
over.
Yes, that was her take
a little
on
bit.
this this person who was also in politics. He was a politician. And next slide is something else.
I'm going to keep going because we want to have some.
This is Pretty Bird as well. So this is
Oh, sorry.
This is basically print collage, and it's also three-dimensional in that sense because it's like a collage technique on printmaking technique, and it's a very beautiful piece, this one here, but we cannot see perfectly. And using the same technique with printmaking and collage, you can see here the kind of I can say marriage between the print and the paper and the collage itself as well on that piece. And it's the same technique with a collage on the bottom and a print on top.
I really like that statement. I will blossom.
And again, we have the same technique where the artists use.
And then, do you want to talk about they have small press where you do the text?
The school has the lab press.
Lab press, right?
Yeah, it's a lab press where they have all this beautiful machine, like 100-year press that the school have. So if you get a chance to come to Otis, perhaps you will see this machine, this beautiful press, where you can do this project as well. But everything that is done here was done by hand, in terms of the cutting and the text and everything.
And I'm just going to click through these, so that we can get to.
And as you can see, as the slides flow, you will see people are using text and they're using collage. They're using different techniques to create an image.
Oh, then this was. Can they see the whole thing? So this was. Remember this was kind of a response of one of the students. This is an 8 feet by 4 feet piece of plywood because at the time people were using plywood to cover windows that were broken, and so she created this image on the plywood to to kind of give her own response to what was going on, and this figure of like an elf or some kind of a sprite that's in kind of being sprayed by what is it, pepper spray. So she had this strong reaction to the events.
Yeah,
and
it's like the side of the building, post-Nobel, but it's a beautiful piece in itself, like a graffiti kind of a palimpsest of.
So this
all of
was the
these.
time where people were working at home, and so obviously some people who had more space at home, like a garage, they were able to. There was another artist who created this in her hometown. It's still part of the same class. She has created this piece as an interactive place-based piece where you can actually come up and take a picture with this sculpture.
With the sculpture, and then you can take a flyer that had a poem. in it.
Yes. So so
Peace and love. And
there was like a
tolerance.
pocket right there where
Yeah,
the
there was a
poem
pocket
was.
behind this, the
Mhm.
heart. And this is Kansas, actually.
Yeah, so this is an example of, students your age, and they're engaging with, being artists and, being very, very out there, in terms of,
Engagement in the
engaging in the
Yeah.
community and public. And then we have a few more images here. Okay, I think that's the last image. So Carl is going to show you some techniques that were used. Yep, some techniques that were used. He's going to start with just a simple stencil, so we can have the
Yes.
camera. And so now, Carl, look, you could see your table, and then you can kind of talk about how you created these.
So since we were not really short on time, but we're going to start with that. So basically this piece here is a drawing. I start making a self-portrait. And with the self-portrait, after I made the self-portrait, I put it on the side. And from that, I created a background as well with different, with part of these little pieces of paper that I made from stencil. So basically, as you can see, I drew this before I came here.
And Carl, why do you use these stencils and these shapes in your work?
Well, those are simple shapes that doesn't really require a lot of cutting. As you can, I'll show you a different kind of stencil. For example, I have this stencil here, but this one will require a lot of time in terms of cutting.
But can you tell us how you did it? Because that's really
Okay,
fun.
so this is what we're going to talk about. Okay, so now I have this simple diamond shape.
So if friends have a piece of paper out there, and if they have a scissors and
then maybe we can
can they
that
do this
together.
with you? All right,
Yeah, they
so
can do that with
so
you. Yeah.
everyone, if you do have a pencil and a pair of scissors and a piece of
And let's try to
paper,
do that.
we can try to do it. So create a simple shape. Could even be a box, right? Like the other one.
Yeah, for example, I have the squares, which is like very easy to create shapes. So, so I'm going to cut that like this. Notice that I'm keeping it at the edge, but depending on how you want to use it. So
Should
I
we
have that, like that, or I have to put it down. It's kind of open, and I'm going to take a piece of tape. To corner the edge so it doesn't open on me when I'm using it. So basically now you have this little piece of stencil, right?
Should we
And-
ask everybody if they have any questions about the process of how to make a stencil?
Well,
Is there anyone that wants to chat a question? If you have a question, put it in the chat and we'll answer your question. Any question?
for example, I have this piece of paper. Usually I like to make things like very precise with a ruler, but this time I'm just gonna draw it like that.
And Carl,
Yes, I'm gonna draw it like that. And basically it's kind of a square, but not like a square in terms of a perfect square. As you can see, I make the square. And I will use the scissors, but since it's inside too much, so I'm just gonna use this
cutting tool.
this cutting tool here to make it more or less precise and inside.
And so what Carl is showing you, friends, is a technique that you can use in your artwork that is in addition to images or collage. So this is just a way to unify the artwork with pattern.
So this is what I used to create this pattern on this one, for example, and it was mostly made with different type of paper. Okay, so now, so what I wanted to show you guys, I'm going to use the square. Okay, and usually if you use a cardboard, it will last longer and you will not have like breaking. So if you want to save that, there is another way you can tape it, and then just like this one here is made with the stencil as I cut, but I put tape on it so it could be saved. So when I spray on it or if I draw on it, I don't break the edge of the paper. So this one here doesn't have the tape on it, so I'm just going to use it like that. So
And
for example,
as you're gonna make
for
these,
example, I'm going to make some squares and make them go down, right? This is one.
and Carl, could they do it over collage right now, right away?
Yes, we're going to do it right away. I'm just going to do that like that, and then we're going to,
So if they wanted to cut out a collage
yes.
from like a magazine
Yes.
or news media,
So for example, I have like these squares continuing here to create the pattern, right? So it's kind of a stenciling pattern. So you have this thing here. So right now, I have like, that could be magazine paper, but this is just regular paper that are in color, like different pieces that I can use to create the same thing. So for example, I'm going to take the same square here, I'm going to put it behind, like on the back of the paper, because I don't want that marker to be on it as well. Okay, so that's one.
and so if the students are working on this at Otis, you'll have a big kind of almost like a studio space, right? Where you can have all these
people have
materials.
like studio spaces and then the table, and they can work on it.
So you're placing these cutouts.
So I'm going to placing this cutout in the squares right now, right? And I'm going to use a different color and using the same one. And to save people, sometimes I do it on the edge. Do you have a marker, Julia? My marker's over there.
So let us know if you have any questions, or if we're going too fast.
Okay.
Let us
So the
know.
second one, I'm going to put it here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit yellowish,
Yes.
right? And I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to use this one and use the same. Actually, I use the board instead of what I cut originally, so I'm going to go back to this one here. I have too many things on the table.
So if you wanted to make the most out of your piece, wouldn't you be tracing it like closer to the edge?
Yes, so that's why I put it here like that, but it wasn't correct.
Can you work more in the middle so we can see it?
Yes. You know what? Can you? Okay. So that's my second piece. I'm going to put here. And that yellow piece was a little bit too big. I'm going to use it again with my original cut.
And so like your table is gonna look like this when you're working, so
Yes, there was an
Always.
order since we are here in the studio, so you're not seeing everything on the table. I have a lot of stuff behind me, but that's what it is. It's always good to have more to choose from.
and if you've
So-
done any kind of stenciling before, let us know and can we we?
So I have these 3 pieces, and we didn't have like glue because we didn't want to mess up the studio. So we just brought these kind of glue sticks, that are efficient as well. But usually, when we do these collages, we kind of create a nice little basket, like not a basket, but a bucket of glue and paper, and so it will be more like
But if you're at home,
flexible.
glue stick is fine.
Glue stick is fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I use glue stick all the time.
Okay, so now you have something like that, basically, with these 3 shapes. As you can see,
Can
we
you
have
also
these 2
use this
shapes.
stencil for like spray painting and?
Yes, but we cannot do that
Well, I'm
here.
just asking if
So
friends
now-
want to try. Do they want to? Can they?
For example, this is a stencil that I made with this kind of a plastic paper. And as you can see, let me have a piece of white paper. So this stencil here was cut with this kind of a plastic paper. Not plastic, but how do you call this paper here?
Mylar.
Mylar, exactly. So the Mylar has some resistance to it, but it helps preserve the stencil when you cut it. And you can spray to it, you can do different drawing with that. But when you use it, the Mylar is resistant to water, and it doesn't really get destroyed. So that's why I like using this as a stencil. And also, one thing we wanted to show today, we could have continued working with that one. What is it? The one that I made. Yeah, we can continue working with the other one, but we can actually find something else to do with the foam. You can use the foam as well to create that, or cardboard to create the shapes. For example, I have this cardboard here. What can I do with this cardboard? So let's see if we can jump and make a quick point. Usually, I use a foam that I can buy at any I can get this foam at Joann's or a craft center.
It's just called craft foam.
It's a craft foam, and those craft foam can be easily cut to create pattern as well. So that's why this foam works better than anything else. So we can continue working with this piece here. So I'm going to put it on the side, and I'm going to create a stencil with foam. Okay? So this time I'm going to draw one of those diamond shapes. So I'm going to trace it first. This time I'm going to make it a little bit better, so we can have like a perfect diamond shape.
Maybe we can print what's on the back.
Yes, that's what we're going to print.
I just made a call from a marker, so someone should come see.
Okay, we're going to cut this foam and put it on a piece of board. Okay, you can see this beautiful diamond shape. So I'm going to cut it basically out a smaller one than that. Yeah. This one is better. And my glue sticks. Thank you. Perfect. So I have my glue sticks. Again. And nothing to glue stick will work better because it will dry right away. And then I create this piece like here on that. So I'm gonna let it dry for a moment and then make another one square now. And then I'm gonna use the same one we did earlier, so we keep kind of consistency with the continuity. Okay. Now we have the marker. My apologies earlier because this marker can dry so fast. Okay, so now we have something consistent. And again, I'm using my cutter. Keep my hand away from the camera. Again, when I'm cutting away from myself, as you can see, so because we don't want any cut to the body. Okay, perfect. So now we have cut out, almost. So now I have these two pieces, and like another piece of board that is like more conducive to the size. And usually we cut a lot when we are doing this kind of work. It's kind of spontaneous, so we have to be more or less aware of what you want. Kind of a do-it-yourself project, so you work with what you have. Okay, now, okay, so now I'm going to use the same technique, gluing this on this board. So now I have this, more or less, something that I started with that. And now I wanted to print the shapes.
Do you want to tell us about the inks and the rollers? The kind you're using?
Well, right now we are going to use this basic Blick ink block printing inks that you can find at
The Blick Art Supply store?
yeah, the Blick Art Supply. So we can find these at Blick because it's a Blick on it. Okay. So now we're going to spread some ink. Just a little bit. Since we're doing a lot of work, we only have a small piece of plexi. The plexi helps a lot because it gives you a surface so you can roll your ink. So
is there a special way to roll it?
Well, which way do you like rolling it? I go back and forth, but
I like to hear that noise.
That's the noise, you know,
the tacky
it
noise.
gives you the tacky noise, meaning that it's ready to go. So the first thing I do, I will use my my diamond shape. So I will lightly put it on, and there are smaller water than that, but this time I only brought this with me. And some people like the noise, but I like to cover it. So I cover the noise so it will be clean. And how can I use that on this print? You know, and I have that and that. Okay, I'm just going to place it right here and see what happens.
And you don't
Then-
want to move the paper, right?
Don't
Like,
move the paper, but I moved it a little bit, but I'm gonna use the bird to kind of like get it stick.
and that's a special thing that you can. You
can
don't need
make it
to.
yourself,
yeah.
or you can buy it at the store. So I have this impression here,
Do that.
although we have, it's not the square, but it's like this interesting diamond shape that is.
I wonder if you
always-
can match it up to this side.
Well, we're gonna match it up with the other one. So we're gonna make another one. Again, steal some ink and then boom. And then you still have some noise, but I will just let it be this time. And
So
then-
all of these you can do,
you
at
can do
home.
at home.
Yeah.
This
all
is
of
at home because you don't need to go to Graphic to do that. So you can do it at home. So I did not let this dry, but since we are doing a demonstration, I'm going to print it anyway.
And so these would be like the layers that you would do on the artwork.
On the
You would
artwork,
do.
exactly.
You
Before
could
I
do prints. You can do collage. You can do drawings, and you can do different layers and redo them in layers till you get that very rich
So this is
printing
something
surface.
that we can do quickly at home. And notice that I did not make a whole collage. We didn't have, not really have time to make the whole collage, but we didn't really emphasize on it. Okay? So as I was saying about the simple shape, so I'm going to go back to the square here. Okay? So this is the square that I used earlier. So I'm just going to roll something. I'm just going to leave this here since we don't have water here to wash it. So I'm just going to use the blueprint right now. And my ink is a little bit watery, but I think it's fine like that. So there is a way of rolling it, but not everybody has the same touch. But me, I just like to press on it and make it work. Again, I'm going to use the same rolling technique once, so I can kind of like give it little ink. Okay, and we got some noise, but why not? Why not cover it with the noise? And I like to cover it so I don't have any kind of other impression that I don't need on my surface. So I'm just going to block it here like that. And so I'm going to use a corner. Again, this is not dry. Usually you have to let it dry before you do another impression because you don't want to mess it up. But anyway, we're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to place it at that corner again, right here, as she wanted to match it. So let's see if we can match it this time. And again, I'm using my burr, like that, and voila. So that's pattern you can create like that with these stencils. So basic shapes work, as I'm saying to you, if you feel adventurous, not you always have to feel adventurous, you can do something more elaborated. For example, like something like that, okay, where you have, it will take you a couple of days to do that, or maybe 30 minutes, depending on the person. Okay?
It does. Well,
As you
let's
can
print
see-
that blue
so
square,
we're
and
gonna
then
print
we
the
have
square.
just a couple of minutes for questions. I would love to see if anyone had made this kind of thing before, if they have made any art that was inspired by any kind of events, world events, and a lot of times what we remember from world events are the images and the artwork. Interestingly enough,
Okay. In terms of,
we're done. So we're gonna maybe take questions.
are we done?
You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Okay. So before I go, I wanted to show you diverse stencils, right? For example, you can buy them pre-made. Those are text stencils. You can buy them
Oh,
pre-made.
let's have some text on that.
Yeah. Well,
On the print. Let's let's do it.
Yeah, but we don't have the text. We don't have something to spray on it. We need some sponge to make it go through.
Or we can use a Sharpie.
Well, we can, yes. It's true. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, can you do it for me?
Hope.
So we
Yes.
have this text. As you can see, you can buy them pre-made, or if you're like Ligon, I forgot his name. He did the text work. Nigo Sunshine, Ligon. So he makes his own text with what's it, John Ligon? I forget the name of the artist. So we can use also these stencils to create pattern, right?
And you're just using a Sharpie and
I'm just
and
using a Sharpie, yes.
stencil, so.
Well, because I don't have the right.
No, Sharpie seems like a really good.
Yeah. because
I would
the
do Sharpie.
The Sharpie.
And especially if you're doing quick artwork
Yeah.
as a response to, like, let's say you went someplace like a protest or a meeting, or you went to, with your friends, and you wanted to make an artwork that relates to something you were doing, even if you were just, playing sports or
As you can
whatever.
see, the Sharpie.
Sharpie looks really awesome.
And then you have these beautiful lines that could be done with these pre-made stencils, right?
Here, can we get a star on there?
Yeah, we're gonna get this started.
There we go. Let's get a star on there.
So you can see we can fill it up with all these little marks. Basically, printmaking is a series of marks that you're making, but sometimes the marks, are well organized. Sometimes they're just marks. And I had this star that I wanted to show you. Yes. For example, this is one of my favorite stars. Let's use, I'm going to use the same ink here.
So that will be the last demo, because
This is
we
the last one. I think we're running out
have
of time.
like a minute, so.
And this is this one here. Again, this is something that I traced. And not looking for perfection, but you can make a star that looks really good. Something like that. And then I'm just gonna see if I can just put it here like that. And notice that I'm not moving it, kind of keeping it solid on the paper so it doesn't have no movement.
Here we go. All right. Wow, that looks
So
amazing,
you've got-
Carl. So,
We've got that. And we can make another small star on the side. Where's my marker? My marker just disappeared.
sorry, it's right here.
Okay. As you can see, the table was a little bit cumbersome, but there was some sense of order. But what I like about printmaking, there was a lot of order in it. When you go to the studio, when you go to see the printer, it's very clean and nice. But at home, you can do the same thing at home. But since we were here,
All right, Carl.
this is what we got. So this is our surface, minus the collage that we didn't get a chance to do.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to say, please, if you have any questions, you can, here, pop in there again. If you have any questions,
Yes.
you can, I'm trying to look at what to say. If you have any questions about the process, you can ask now. And I really, really appreciate, this is the last workshop of the grid. I really appreciate you coming to see Carl, and
This
this
is what
really
we didn't get a chance to do.
creative process.
We were going to do this collage, but
He
unfortunately.
needs another few hours
Yeah.
to work with his materials. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope you do end up coming to Otis and work with us there. Also, so from everyone at the grid, thank you
Thank you
so
very
much
much.
for
Thank you
being
very
part
much
of
for
this.
participating.
Give me any question you have. I have one thumbs up, any thumbs up. I'm really encouraged by everyone's participation and hope to see you at Otis.
And if you come to Otis, you can make a shirt like that. This is a shirt from one of my students a couple of years ago, and this is fantastic mandala that she made.
Yeah. Yay.
And I got the t-shirt. So,
Thank you. That's
thank
it.
you very much for participating, and perhaps we can spend more time doing that one day.